I walked 12 miles in the Georgia heat to see my boy get married, only for his new wife to look at my dusty shoes, point at the heavy oak doors, and tell me to get out before I ruin the pictures. But she didn't know I was carrying something in my pocket that would tear her whole world apart.
I said,
Hello
leave
friends,
now.
welcome to our story. Before we start, please like this video and subscribe. Also tell us in the comments where you are watching from, United States, Canada, London, maybe South Africa or Jamaica, we want to know. My name is Evelyn. I'm 68 years old, and my knees ain't what they used to be. Not even close. The day started bad. My old Corolla, the one Henry bought me when he got his first real paycheck, just died. Sputtered out right on County Road 9. The engine gave a loud knock, smoke poured out the hood, and that was that. I didn't have money for a tow truck, I didn't even have my phone. I'd left it sitting on the kitchen counter back home. I guess I was just too nervous and excited about the wedding. I sat in that quiet car for a minute. I cried a little bit, I won't lie to you. Then I looked at the clock on the dashboard. It was 11 in the morning. The wedding started at 2. 12 miles. I took a deep breath, opened the door, and stepped out into the heat. I was wearing my Sunday best. It's a navy blue dress with a little lace around the collar. I bought it for Easter maybe 8-9 years ago. It's the nicest thing I own. I put on my sensible black shoes, the ones with the thick rubber soles, and I started walking. The sun was beating down hard. You know how the heat rises off the blacktop in thick waves during the summer? It was like walking through a hot oven. Cars zoomed past me. Fast. Few folks honked, but nobody stopped. People don't really stop for an old black woman walking on the shoulder of the highway anymore. They just look straight ahead and keep driving. With every step, I thought about Henry. I raised that boy from a baby. His mama, my sweet daughter, she passed away when he was just 3 years old. I took him in without a second thought. We didn't have much at all. Sometimes dinner was just grits and butter, or maybe a can of chicken soup split 2 ways. But we made it work. I made sure he did his homework every single night. I made sure his shirts were ironed for school. I worked cleaning houses over in the wealthy part of town so he could have a roof over his head. I scrubbed other people's floors so he could walk on solid ground. Around mile 6, a blister popped on my left heel. The pain was sharp, felt like a hot needle poking me every time I put my foot down. I just kept walking. I had to. This was Henry, my grandbaby. He was becoming a husband today. He was marrying a girl named Sophia. I'd only met her twice before. She was polite, I guess. Very quiet. She came from a family with money. Real, old money. I always felt a little out of place around her, like I didn't know where to put my hands or how to sit on her nice furniture. By the time I reached the Magnolia Country Club, it was almost 2 o'clock. I was a mess. There's no other way to say it. The bottom of my navy dress was coated in fine, brown dirt. Sweat had soaked straight through the back of my collar. My hair, which I'd pinned up so careful that morning, was frizzy and falling down the back of my neck. I was breathing heavy, and my feet, they were just numb. I walked up the long driveway. The place was huge. Big white pillars, green grass that looked like a smooth carpet, fancy cars lined up everywhere. I slipped around the side of the building, near where the catering trucks were unloading boxes. I didn't want to walk through the front door looking the way I did. I just wanted to find a bathroom, wash my face, maybe try to wipe the heavy dust off my shoes before I found an empty seat in the back row. I pushed through a heavy side door and found myself in a long, quiet hallway with thick patterned carpet. The air conditioning hit me all at once. It felt so good I almost closed my eyes and cried again. Then, a door opened down the hall. It had a little gold sign on it that said Bridal Suite. Out walked Sophia. She looked beautiful. Like a picture in a magazine. Her dress was white silk, simple, but you could tell just by looking at the fabric that it cost more than my house. Her hair was pulled back perfect. She was holding a little silver mirror, checking her lipstick. She looked up. She saw me. She stopped dead in her tracks. The smile fell right off her face. "Miss Evelyn," she said. Her voice was sharp. It echoed in the quiet hallway. "Hi, Sophia," I said. My voice was raspy. My throat was so dry it hurt to talk. My car broke down on the road. I had to walk. I just need to find the washroom right quick. She took a step back, looking me up and down. She looked at the sweat stains on my collar. She looked at my frizzy hair. She stared hard at my dusty, scuffed shoes. The look on her face, it wasn't pity. It wasn't concern. It was disgust. Just plain disgust. "You walked?" she asked. "From where?" "From County Road 9, I told her. "About 12 miles. But I made it. I'm here for my boy." Sophia looked down both ends of the hallway, real fast, like she was scared somebody was going to come out and see me standing there. "You can't be here like this," she said. She kept her voice low, but it was hard and cold. "Look at you." "I just need a little water and a paper towel," I said, taking a small step toward her. "I'll clean up real fast. I'll sit in the very back. Nobody will even notice me." "No," Sophia said. She put her hand up flat, like a stop sign. "No, you're not going out there. My parents' friends are out there. Judges. Senior partners from the law firm. You look like a homeless person, Evelyn." That hurt. It felt like she actually slapped me across the face. "I'm Henry's grandmother," I said. I tried to stand up straighter, but my lower back ached so bad. "He wants me here." "Henry wants a perfect day," Sophia snapped back. "He doesn't want to be embarrassed. He doesn't want people asking why his family looks like this. I've worked too hard on this wedding to let you ruin the aesthetic." She pointed a finger toward the heavy oak doors at the end of the hall. "You need to leave. Now. Before he sees you." I stood there. I just couldn't believe it. I worked my whole life, wore my fingers down to the bone for that boy, and this girl was throwing me out the back door like a bag of garbage. I felt my hand curl into a tight fist inside my dress pocket. My fingers brushed against the old, thick paper envelope I brought with me. It was my wedding gift for them. The deed to the 20 acres of land my daddy left me back in the country. The land was worth a whole lot of money now. I was going to give it to them to help them start their new life. I was about to pull it out. I was about to shove it in her face and show her that I wasn't just some poor old woman with dusty shoes. But then, Sophia took an angry step closer to me. The light from the hallway chandelier caught her chest. I froze. She was wearing a necklace, a thick gold chain with a heavy, square-cut emerald right in the middle. My breath caught in my throat. I couldn't breathe. That necklace wasn't just jewelry. That was my grandmother's emerald. The exact same one Henry's mother wore on her own wedding day. The one I kept locked inside a little velvet box in my bottom dresser drawer. The same velvet box that I found smashed open and completely empty on my bedroom floor 3 weeks ago. I looked at the necklace. Then I looked up into Sophia's cold, angry eyes. "Where did you get that?" I whispered. Sophia's hand flew up to her chest, covering the emerald tight. She looked panicked, real panic, like a trapped animal. "You need to get out," she hissed, her voice trembling and high-pitched now. "Security." She turned around to yell down the hall. And that's when I knew I wasn't leaving this building. "Security." Sophia yelled it again, her voice echoing off the fancy wallpaper. "Somebody get out here now." I didn't have time to think. My brain just stopped. All I knew was I couldn't let some heavy-handed guard drag me out to the parking lot like a stray dog. Not when I was staring at my own grandmother's jewelry on this stranger's neck. My bad knees flared up with a hot, sharp pain, but I moved faster than I have in 10 years. I grabbed the heavy brass handle of the nearest door, shoved it open, and slipped inside just as I heard heavy boots running around the corner. I leaned my back against the door, holding my breath. My heart was thumping so loud I thought for sure they could hear it out in the hall. "Ma'am, what's wrong?" a man's voice asked outside. "A woman," Sophia said, sounding breathless. Sounding like a victim. Some crazy, homeless-looking woman just sneaked in through the caterer's entrance. She lunged at me. Tried to grab my necklace. I closed my eyes. Lord have mercy. She was lying. Just lying as easy as breathing. "Which way did she go?" the guard asked. "Out the back," Sophia said quickly. "She ran out the back doors toward the golf course. Go get her. She's dangerous." Footsteps pounded away down the hall, fading into the distance. I let out a shaky breath and opened my eyes, trying to see where I was. It was dark in the room, but a little bit of sunlight squeezed through the heavy velvet curtains. It looked like a private lounge. There was a big leather sofa, a nice oak desk, and garment bags hung over chairs. It must have been a room for the bridal party to keep their things. I stood there in the quiet, rubbing my chest. The blister on my foot was throbbing, but I didn't care about that anymore. All I could see in my mind was that square-cut emerald. 3 weeks ago, I came home from Wednesday night Bible study and found my back window smashed to pieces. Glass all over my kitchen linoleum. My bedroom was torn apart. Mattresses flipped, drawers pulled out. But the only thing missing, the only thing, was the little velvet box with the necklace. I was so scared that night, I sat on my porch shaking until Henry got there. He hugged me so tight. He told me, "It's gonna be okay, Nana, it's just random. Kids looking for drug money." But it wasn't random. Sophia had it. Did Henry give it to her? No. No, my boy wouldn't do that. He knew that necklace was my history. He knew I was saving it for the right time. He wouldn't just take it. Sophia must have. I don't know. My head was spinning. How did she get it? I limped over to the desk to sit down in the heavy leather chair. I just needed to take the weight off my legs and think for a minute. That's when I noticed Sophia's purse sitting right on the desk. It was one of those fancy bags with the big gold letters on the side. The zipper was wide open. Now, I ain't the snooping type. I raised Henry to respect folks' privacy and I try to live by the same rules. But I was so angry and so confused, my hands just sort of moved on their own. I saw a thick manila folder sticking halfway out of her bag. I reached over and pulled it out. I opened it up on the desk and leaned in close to read the papers in the dim light. It wasn't wedding plans, it was bank letters. Big red stamps on the top. Final notice. Default. There was a letter addressed to Sophia's father, Mr. Sebastian. It said his law firm was bankrupt. It said the bank was foreclosing on their family estate in 2 weeks. I stared at it. I didn't understand. Everybody said the Sebastians had money dripping from the ceiling. But this paper said they were dead broke, they were drowning. I turned to the next page in the folder. It was a printed map from the county tax office. My breath caught in my throat. It was a map of my side of town. And right there, right in the middle of the page, my 20 acres of land was circled in bright red marker. Attached to the map was a sticky note. The handwriting was neat and sharp. It said, Evelyn Washington property. Commercial zoning approved. Immediate sale value to developers. $2.5 million. My hands started to shake. The paper rattled in the quiet room. $2.5 million? I always knew the land was valuable since the city started building out that way, but I had no idea it was worth that. They didn't want Henry. Sophia didn't love my boy. She was marrying him because she needed a lifeline. They were targeting my land. Suddenly, the door on the far side of the room, a door that connected to the next suite, clicked open. I gasped and dropped the folder on the desk. I scrambled as fast as my bad knees would let me and dropped down behind the heavy leather sofa, pressing my back against the wall. I pulled my knees to my chest and held my breath. 2 people walked into the room. Did security find her? A man asked. I froze. The blood drained completely out of my face. It was Henry, my Henry. No. Sophia's voice answered. She sounded annoyed now, not scared. She ran off. But she saw the necklace, Henry. She was staring right at it. I told you I shouldn't wear it today. You had to wear something, Henry said, his voice. It didn't sound warm. It sounded cold. Annoyed. I'd never heard him use that tone before. The ring I bought you is cubic zirconia, Sophia. We needed something real to keep up appearances for your parents' friends until the land sale goes through. But she recognized it. Sophia hissed. So what? Henry said. He sighed, and I heard the sound of liquid pouring into a glass. Listen to me. It doesn't matter. I broke in, I tossed the place, and I couldn't find the damn deed to the land. The old bat hid it too well. Taking the necklace was just a backup plan to buy us time. The old bat. He called me the old bat. A hot tear spilled over my eyelid and ran down my cheek, catching in the deep wrinkles by my mouth. It tasted like salt and dirt. I pressed both hands over my mouth so I wouldn't sob out loud. My chest felt like it was being crushed in a vice. He broke in. My own flesh and blood. The baby I rocked to sleep when he had a fever. He shattered my window. He let me cry on his shoulder about it. Well, she's here now, Sophia snapped. If she talks to anyone. She won't, Henry said, his voice flat. I took care of it. When I visited her on Tuesday, I loosened the radiator cap on her Corolla and drained half the coolant. I knew it would overheat on the highway. She's probably stuck out on County Road 9. Even if she walked, there's no way she gets past security looking like a vagrant. We get married in an hour. By tomorrow morning, we'll convince the judge her mind is going, get power of attorney, and force the sale of the 20 acres. Your dad's debts get paid, and I get my cut. I sat there in the dark, trembling. He had planned all of it. The car breaking down wasn't an accident. He left me to bake in the Georgia heat. He was going to steal my land and throw me in a home. I tried to shift my weight because my bad knee was cramping up tight. The floorboard underneath the carpet let out a sharp, loud groan. The room went dead silent. The clinking of Henry's glass stopped. Did you hear that? Henry whispered. It came from behind the sofa, Sophia said. Her voice was right there, just a few feet away. I heard heavy footsteps walking slowly across the carpet, coming straight toward where I was hiding. I held my breath. I squeezed my eyes shut so tight I saw little white spots dancing in the dark. I could hear the squeak of Henry's fancy leather shoes pressing into the floorboards. Step, step, step. He was coming right around the edge of the leather sofa. My heart was hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. Lord, please, I prayed in my head. Please don't let him see me down here. I don't know what he'll do. Just as the toe of his shiny black shoe came into my view, a heavy knock pounded on the door out in the hallway. Henry stopped dead. The door swung wide open, hitting the wall with a loud thud. Sophia, are we ready? A loud, booming voice called out. It was a man's voice, deep and full of authority. Dad, Sophia said, her voice dropping that annoyed tone real fast. Yes, we're just about done. Good, her father said. His heavy footsteps walked right past the sofa. I could smell him expensive cologne and peppermint. Mr. Sebastian, Henry's son, do me a favor. Give me a minute alone with my daughter before we do this. Walk down to the staging area. Henry hesitated. Sir, I just thought I heard something over by the... I said give us a minute, Henry, Mr. Sebastian repeated. His voice didn't get louder, but it got a whole lot colder. It wasn't a request anymore. Yes, sir, Henry mumbled. He sounded small, my Henry. He always stood so tall, but right now, he sounded like a little boy getting scolded. I heard Henry walk away. The heavy door clicked shut behind him. For a few seconds, the room was perfectly quiet. Then Mr. Sebastian let out a long, heavy sigh. You're wearing the necklace, he said. I had to, Daddy, Sophia said, pacing the floor. Henry gave it to me. He said the diamond ring he bought was fake, so we needed this to look respectable today. Mr. Sebastian let out a short, ugly laugh. That boy is a fool, but it doesn't matter. Did he get the deed? No, Sophia answered. He tore the old woman's house apart, but he couldn't find it. But he said he has a plan. He messed with her car so she'd be stranded. He's filing papers tomorrow morning to have her declared mentally unfit. Once he has power of attorney, he can force the land sale. I clamped my hands over my mouth, hearing it the second time. Hearing my fate talked about like it was just some business transaction. It made me feel sick to my stomach. He better, Mr. Sebastian said. I got off the phone with the bank this morning. We have until Friday, Sophia. If that $2.5 million doesn't hit our accounts by Friday afternoon, they're locking the gates on the estate. I'll be ruined. We'll be ruined. It's going to be fine, Sophia said. Henry will get the money. And the annulment papers? Mr. Sebastian asked. My ears perked up. Annulment? I have them in my overnight bag, Sophia said smoothly. No hesitation, no guilt. Relax, Daddy. As soon as the wire transfer clears from the land developers, I'm filing the paperwork. I don't want to be tied to him for a single second longer than I have to be. Honestly, it makes my skin crawl when he touches me. He's a means to an end, her father said. Just play the loving wife for a few more days. Let him do the dirty work of locking his grandmother up in a home. Let him take the blame for it. Then we take the money, file the annulment, and leave him holding the bag. A street rat belongs on the street. I know, Dad, she said. I know. All right, Mr. Sebastian said, patting her on the back. Let's go get you married. Smile, sweetheart. The hard part is almost over. They walked to the door, opened it, and stepped out into the hall. The door clicked shut. I was completely alone in the quiet room. I slowly uncurled my legs and pushed myself up from the floor. My knees popped loudly, and my lower back screamed in pain, but I barely felt it. My mind was spinning too fast. I leaned against the wall, trying to catch my breath. Henry was a monster for what he did to me. He broke my heart into a million tiny pieces. But listening to Sophia and her father, it did something strange to me. You see, you don't stop loving a child just because they break your heart. You just love them through the breaking. Henry sold his soul. He sold me out. And for what? For a girl who hated him, for a family that thought he was trash. He thought he was playing a clever game, but he was the one being played. They were going to let him ruin his own life, commit a crime against his own flesh and blood, and then they were going to steal the money and leave him with absolutely nothing. He'd probably end up in jail. I wiped the dirt and tears off my face with the back of my hand. I looked over at the desk. The thick manila folder with all the bank notices was still sitting there. I walked over and picked it up. I rolled it tight in my hand. In my other pocket, my fingers brushed against the heavy paper envelope, the actual deed to the 20 acres. They were all fighting over a piece of paper that was sitting right here in my dusty dress. I had to stop this. I couldn't let my grandbaby throw his life away for a lie, even if I never spoke to him again as long as I lived. I slipped out of the bridal suite. The hallway was completely empty now. Down at the far end, I could hear soft, beautiful music playing. Cello and violin. It was coming from the main ballroom. I limped down the hall, holding onto the wallpaper to keep my balance. Every step on my blistered foot sent a shock of pain up my leg, but I just kept moving. I reached the end of the hallway. There were two massive, dark wood doors left slightly cracked open. I peeked through the gap. The room was stunning. Hundreds of white flowers, candles glowing everywhere, packed with people in fancy suits and expensive dresses. And way down at the front, standing under a beautiful arch of white roses, was Henry. He was smiling. He looked so handsome. He was watching the back of the room, waiting for his bride. The music swelled. The crowd stood up. The doors on the opposite side of the room opened, and Sophia started walking down the aisle on her father's arm. This is it, I thought. I placed my hands flat against the heavy wood doors. I was going to push them open. I was going to walk right down that white carpet in my dirty shoes and hand Henry that folder. I was going to blow this whole fake world wide open. I took a deep breath and pushed. But before the doors could even open an inch, a large, heavy hand clamped down hard on my shoulder. Fingers dug into my collarbone, painfully tight. Not so fast, a gruff voice whispered right in my ear. Gotcha. The guard was big. I couldn't see him, but I could feel how heavy and strong he was. His fingers dug into my shoulder, pulling me backward, away from the heavy oak doors. Come on now, let's go, he muttered, his voice rough. I don't know where I found the strength. Maybe it was the anger. Maybe it was just adrenaline. But instead of pulling away, I threw my whole body weight forward, right against the middle of those big double doors. Bang! The doors flew open. They hit the inside walls with a sound like a thunderclap. I stumbled forward into the room, almost falling flat on my face before I caught my balance. The guard stumbled right in after me, still holding onto my dress. The beautiful cello music stopped with a terrible loud screech. The whole room went dead silent. 200 people, all dressed in their expensive suits and silk gowns, turned around to look at me, and I knew exactly what they saw. An old, tired, sweating black woman with frizzy hair, a dirt-stained navy dress, and scuffed, dusty shoes. Way down at the front, standing by the white roses, Sophia gasped and covered her mouth. Mr. Sebastian turned bright red. And Henry, my Henry just froze. His eyes got as wide as saucers. Ma'am, you need to come with me right now, the guard said, pulling my arm hard. Let me go, I said. My voice was shaky, but I said it loud enough for the back rows to hear. The guard tugged again, harder this time. I'm not asking. Get your hands off her. It was Henry. His voice cut through that silent room like a knife. He stepped down from the little altar. Let her go. That's my grandmother. The guard let go of my arm like it was on fire. He took a step back, looking confused, then just nodded and backed out into the hallway. I stood there for a second, catching my breath. The blister on my heel was bleeding now. I could feel the wetness in my shoe, but I stood up straight. I smoothed down the front of my dirty dress, and I started walking down that long white carpet. Nobody made a sound. You could hear a pin drop. The rich folks just stared at me, some looking shocked, some looking disgusted. I didn't care. I kept my eyes locked right on Henry. When I finally reached the front, I stopped just a few feet away from him. He looked terrified. Nana, he whispered, his voice shaking. What are you doing here? How did you? I walked, I said, 12 miles, just like you planned. Henry flinched. He looked down at the floor. Evelyn, this is highly inappropriate, Mr. Sebastian said, stepping up with a fake, tight smile. We are in the middle of a ceremony. If you could just take a seat. You be quiet, I told him. I didn't yell. I just looked him dead in the eye and he stopped talking. Then I turned back to my grandson. You broke my window, I said. My voice cracked. I didn't want to cry in front of all these people, but the tears came anyway. You tore up my bedroom. You stole from me. You left me out on the highway in the blazing sun so you could lock me away in a home. A loud murmur rippled through the crowd. People started whispering. Nana, please, Henry pleaded, his eyes filling with tears. Don't do this here. We can talk about this later. I'll explain everything. No, you won't, I said. I pulled the rolled-up manila folder out of my hand and slapped it right against his chest. He grabbed it on instinct. Because I'm doing the explaining today. Open it. Henry looked confused, but he opened the folder. His eyes scanned the bright red stamps. Default. Foreclosure. What is this? Henry asked, looking up at Sophia. Sophia's face was completely pale. Henry, don't listen to her, she's crazy. Security. I ain't crazy, I said. I was hiding behind the sofa in the bridal suite. I heard everything. Her daddy's bankrupt, Henry. They're losing their big fancy house on Friday. Henry looked from the papers to Mr. Sebastian, then to Sophia. Is this true? Sophia didn't answer. She just looked at her dad like she was waiting for him to fix it. There's a sticky note in there about my 20 acres. I told Henry, my heart breaking more with every word. That's all they wanted, baby. They wanted my land to pay their debts, and you were just the fool they used to get it. Sophia, what is she talking about? Henry demanded. His voice was getting louder, angry now. Tell him what's in your overnight bag, Sophia, I said. I pointed a finger right at her. Tell him about the annulment papers you've got sitting right next to your toothbrush. Tell him how you were going to file them the second my land money hit your daddy's bank account. Henry dropped the folder. The papers spilled all over the white runner. He stared at Sophia, his face completely broken. Sophia? He whispered. An annulment? Henry, she's lying. Sophia yelled, but her voice was shrill and panicky. She's just a bitter old woman making things up. Dad, do something. I'll have my security team get her bag right now and we'll see who's lying, I said. Sophia froze. The lie died right there in her throat. She looked away from Henry, unable to meet his eyes. The silence that followed was heavier than anything I've ever felt. It was the sound of a whole life crashing down. Henry staggered back a step. He looked at the rich family he tried so hard to impress. He looked at the beautiful bride who thought he was a street rat. He looked at all of it, and he finally saw it for what it was. Nothing but a trap. He started crying. Real heavy sobs that shook his shoulders. I stepped closer to him. I reached out and put my hand on his cheek. He leaned into my palm, just like he did when he was a little boy. Take it off her, Henry, I said softly. He sniffled, nodding slowly. He turned to Sophia. He didn't say a word. He just reached around the back of her neck, unclasped the heavy gold chain, and pulled my grandmother's emerald away from her collarbone. She didn't even try to stop him. He turned back to me and placed the necklace gently in my hand. It felt warm, it felt like home. Nana, I'm so sorry, he choked out, his face buried in his hands. I'm so sorry, I ruined everything. I reached into my other pocket. I pulled out the thick, crumpled paper envelope. Look at me, Henry, I said. He lifted his tear-stained face. I held the envelope up. You know what this is? This is the deed to the 20 acres. His eyes widened. I had it right here in my pocket, I told him, my voice trembling. It was my wedding gift to you. I walked 12 miles in the dirt to give it to you today, free and clear. Because I loved you. I would have given you anything. Henry let out a sound like he'd been punched in the stomach. He reached a hand out toward me, but I took a step back. You broke my heart, Henry, I said. I wiped my face with the back of my hand. And I don't know how to fix that. Not today. I turned my back on him. I turned my back on Sophia, and her father, and all those rich people staring with their mouths open. I started walking back down the aisle. My feet hurt worse than before. My legs were heavy, but I held my head up high. I clutched my grandmother's emerald in one hand, and the deed to my land in the other. I didn't sneak out the side door this time. I walked straight past the security guard, pushed open the big front doors, and stepped out into the bright, hot Georgia sun. I still had a long walk ahead of me, but for the first time all day, I felt like I could finally breathe.